And NBA players from the Brooklyn Nets and Orlando Magic took a knee during the national anthem to protest against racial injustice and police brutality. Our reporter Kevin Hogan spoke with an expert on the anthem to learn more about the significance of the players' actions.
NBA players took a stand against racism and police brutality by bowing their heads and kneeling on towels during the national anthem. One Orlando Magic player, Jonathan Isaac, decided not to don the Black Lives Matter shirt. He stood tall as the Star-Spangled Banner was performed. The song was officially adopted as the national anthem in 1993. A professor of musicology who has studied the anthem extensively says the country didn't need a national anthem before that time. That's because people knew each other and were part of tight-knit communities. But now, with mass media and the nation's growth, the national anthem has become more important to the country's national identity.
So if there's not a willingness to sort of all follow the Constitution, you don't have a nation. So our symbols like flags and songs are the things that sort of build that camaraderie, build those relationships, build this sense of identity. You have to have cooperation to be a democracy. You have to have a belief that the whole means more than the individual. And it's our patriotic symbols that help develop that commitment to the whole, you know, to follow the laws and to sort of be part of the project of the nation. And I think that's really the function of the Star-Spangled Banner.
Recently, Football Hall of Famer Mike Ditka lashed out at those who kneel during the national anthem. He said if they can't respect the national anthem, they should leave the country. A pitcher for the San Francisco Giants, Sam Coonrod, also refused to kneel during a BLM tribute. He told reporters he just can't get on board with a couple of things he's read about Black Lives Matter and how they lean towards Marxism. He added they said some negative things about the nuclear family, and he just can't get on board with that. Some who watched the players kneel during the national anthem expressed negative reactions. They commented saying things like, "Don't like America? There's the door." And "This is such a joke, I will never watch the NBA again." And "This is why hockey is becoming America's sport." Professor Clegg says the players who chose to kneel are using this moment to call on people to ask if we're living up to the ideals our democracy was founded on.
So there is a kind of devotion to the nation and the project of democracy, which of course has historically been a struggle, that I think we can look at these protests as actually an act of citizenship rather than an act of disrespect.
The players violated a rule that requires them to stand, but the NBA commissioner said the rule won't be enforced. Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
Many small businesses are trying to stay afloat during the pandemic, and some entrepreneurs are shaking up their business models, hoping it will be enough to survive.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, MJ. Hey, Molly. Hi, Dana.
An early morning workout.
In 3, 2, 1. Separate your legs. Don't leave the floor.
In the new abnormal for Studio Metamorphosis.
Beautiful. Go, Katie.
All virtual, facing a seemingly never-ending contagion.
It just, the whole prospect of having a business in this climate seems impossible.
5 months ago, owners Jen Yates and Alex Hartunian closed their 3 Los Angeles studios. Then, a lifeline.
We heard back from the PPP. We're going to get some money for you guys.
Yay! Hey. What are we doing with this thing?
Now $150,000 behind in rent, they're selling off equipment to stay afloat. Cleared rooms for a virtual future and California's reopening.
When we reopened, we realized, oh my God, like, no one's coming really, because people are scared.
Okay, let's regroup. We are going to have to rebuild. We know that. Which locations are we going to have to close?
More business closures is what Congress hopes the latest stimulus proposal prevents.
Let's make sure 6 feet there.
But Tom Sopit isn't waiting on lawmakers anymore.
We realized at some point we needed to really innovate and just keep moving. We didn't want to keep stopping and let the virus control the narrative.
The path here has been painful.
It was a nice, dirty old parking lot, and we turned it into this, basically we created a paradise in the middle of the pandemic.
Re-innovating his entire restaurant outside, opening this weekend.
Lift. Good. Take a deep breath.
Small businesses employ 60 million Americans, about half of the private workforce.
Do not drop out of this.
That's what's at stake in the next stimulus package, say these owners.
1, you made it. Whew.
Even more than just their brick and mortar shops.
Chinese authorities are tightening control over private passports. A recent order has invalidated all privately held passports of regime-related staff in Wuhan. Netizens suspect the ban is to lock potential future whistleblowers inside China.
Wuhan's Public Security Bureau recently issued a notice ordering certain citizens to surrender their passports or declare their passports invalid. If they do neither, their passports will be cancelled. These people include staff from state organs, state-controlled companies, and institutions. The order will take effect on August 1st. But Wuhan is not the only area imposing the move. A regime clerk from the Xinjiang region told Radio Free Asia that all Chinese officials are prohibited from having their own passports. People from other provinces also reported that their passport applications were rejected. Authorities have stopped processing applications, either because of the pandemic or due to claims that other countries are too dangerous to travel to. On June 20th, China's Ministry of Justice enacted a law to punish government officials for any wrongdoings they commit. Included on the list of punishable offenses, Article 31 mentions leaving China or processing exit border documentation without permission. The law says doing so can lead to the loss of one's job or title. A Chinese economist shared the Wuhan notice on Twitter, writing, "It'll be too late if you don't leave China now." Another user commented that the order is to prevent the emergence of a second Yan Limeng. They're referring to the Chinese virologist and whistleblower who fled to the U.S. in order to reveal the inside story of the Chinese Communist Party's cover-up of the virus.
In Paris, while workers are removing the final parts of the scaffolding surrounding the Notre Dame cathedral, architects are preparing for the restoration. To do so, they need 19th century plans and drawings. NTD's France correspondent David Vives met with archive curators in Paris who look after the precious plans.
15 months after the blaze that engulfed part of the Notre Dame cathedral structure, French President Emmanuel Macron said it would be rebuilt exactly as it was. It means architects will restore the cathedral to its previously known state. To do so, they will walk in the footsteps of one of their peers, Eugène Viollet-le-Duc, who was in charge of the cathedral's last restoration. And it all starts here, at the Architecture Archives in Paris. Curator Jean Chalet Faugelet said he has already passed on hundreds of documents to the architects.
This is an 1843 drawing designed by Viollet-le-Duc and Lassus. Shown here is what they wanted to do with the cathedral. You see there, they wanted to add this arrow.
Notre Dame Cathedral's construction started in 1167. The building suffered considerable damage after the French revolutionaries removed sculptures and elements of the decor in 1793. And what wasn't touched by them was damaged by the passage of time.
In the Gallery of Kings, there were revolutionaries that caused destruction, and statues were also crumbling, so they had to be taken out as a safety measure for the public.
According to Forgeray, in 1804, some superficial repairs were done in a rush to preserve the sacredness of Napoleon's consecration. The magnificent Gothic cathedral, where some French kings were consecrated, was falling apart. But one man changed the game. In 1831, French author Victor Hugo wrote his Notre Dame de Paris book, featuring the Bohemian Esmeralda and the Hunchback of Notre Dame. In 1843, a competition was organized by architects to restore the monument, and Viollet-le-Duc won. These carefully maintained photos date back from that time, just a few years after the invention of photography. It shows the cathedral before its restoration. According to Gosset, it was a holistic project.
There was a need to consolidate the cathedral structure, but also to create new furniture and spaces that would allow the preservations of the artifacts in good conditions for the Mass. He also changed the decor of the cathedral on the exterior and the interior.
Viollet-le-Duc also added new elements such as the arrows at the transepts of the cathedral. Contrary to the current classical architecture style, Viollet-le-Duc chose to get his inspiration from the Middle Ages.
Some people say the Middle Ages are too old, but you know, fashion is always about a back and forth between periods. The Middle Ages were at the height of the fashion in 1840. Young people at the time were in search of a different design, so the Middle Ages were a source of inspiration for architects, and also artists and writers.
The restoration of Notre Dame will start at the end of September, according to the architects in charge. The middle-aged cathedral will then enter a new period of time. Reporting by David Vives, NTD News.